When it rains, it pours, and it's just getting worse and worse for Donald Trump's vice presidential running mate, JD Vance. I told you yesterday how in the previous 10 days, he lost 9 points of favorability with the American public, effectively losing 1 point of favorability every single day. And we have more unearthed videos. These aren't leaks. These are videos that are public, but they got very little attention when he did a lot of these interviews, and they are very, very bad. Once again, revitalizing the question, can this guy survive? Can he possibly stay on as Donald Trump's vice presidential running mate? In this first video, JD Vance, doubling down on the people without kids thing, says that people without children are sociopathic, psychotic, and also deranged. I don't think this will bring you any new votes.
Right, there's just these basic cadences of life that I think are really powerful and really, really valuable when you have kids in your life. And the fact that so many people, especially in America's leadership class, just don't have that in their lives, I worry that it makes people more sociopathic and ultimately our whole country a little bit less less mentally stable. And of course, you talk about going on Twitter. Final point I'll make is you go on Twitter, and almost always the people who are most deranged and most psychotic are people who don't have kids at home.
So this is also crazy. Now, I can tell you as a dad that sometimes I think being a dad is what's making me lose my mind, not the opposite. But he's making the opposite argument here. But from a political strategy standpoint, like whatever your opinion is about his particular comments, who do you attract by attacking those without children? Especially since at the end of the day, even if you don't have children, you're someone's kid. And thanks to someone's decision, implicit or explicit, to have a kid, you exist. So it's just a very, very strange approach. And, when every time these videos come out, there will be someone from the Trump campaign or a spokesperson for JD Vance or whatever who will say, oh, there's missing context there. And the comments are being distorted in some material way. Check out the entire interviews if you can sit through these things. Sometimes they're 15 minutes, sometimes they're much longer. It doesn't seem to me like there's any missing context at all. Now, here's another one in which JD Vance says that he and Trump will go to war against the childless. Again, who is going to hear this and say, I wasn't voting for JD Vance and Trump, but after hearing this, now I am? Really hard to imagine. And we'll listen to a little more of this just to give you the context that some claim is missing.
The best way to invest in it is to ensure the next generation actually exists. So I think sending those signals via policy, but the cultural messaging in politicians is important. I also think, just to be a little stark about this, I think we have to go to war against the anti-child ideology that exists in our country. A few weeks ago, no, Twitter is not real life. But I forget even what caused it, but there was this ridiculous effort by millennial feminist writers to talk about why having kids was not a good thing, why they were glad they didn't have kids, and even encouraging people who had had children to talk about why they regretted having children, which of course is like
Mother's Day hook.
On Mother's Day, which is like psychologically deranged to ask mothers on Mother's Day to talk about why they regretted having children. And what it made me realize is that so much of what drives elite culture is mediocre millennial journalists who haven't gotten out of their career what they thought they would.
Which, what's funny is when he talks about mediocre millennial journalists, as a millennial himself, the fabricated backstory of JD Vance through his writings and interviews, I would argue, is actually an example of what he's claiming to denounce here.
Right. And the thing is, everybody can be an exceptional mother and father. Not everybody can be an exceptional journalist at the New York Times.
That's true.
And not enough people have accepted that if they put their entire life's meaning into their credential, into where they went to school, into what kind of job they have.
Which is mostly what he did, actually.
If you put all of your life's meaning into that, You're going to be the sort of person who asks women to talk about how they regret having children. You're going to be a sad, lonely, pathetic person, and you're going to know it internally, so you're going to project it onto people who have actually built something more meaningful with their lives. I think we have to go to war against that ideology and the people behind it, because we need to say to the people in my hometown, I've seen this with, just to be honest, with my sister. I love my sister is just the best person. I love her to death. And sometimes, she'll say things to me like, maybe I should have delayed having kids. Maybe I should have went to school. Maybe I should have did this or that. And it's like, Lindsay, you've been a great mom. Your children are happy. They're healthy.
Don't aspire to anything else, Lindsay.
You've taken good care of them. You've shown me, she was my older sister. She took care of me a lot in a very chaotic home. People like my sister should not feel like the cultural messaging is your life is inadequate.
This is bonkers stuff. And one of my immediate reactions when Trump chose Vance, and Vance was not an unknown to me, right? I mean, I followed his political career, read his book, saw how his public persona over the last 4 years was a total 180 from the book, seemingly for naked and craven political aspirations. This guy was a known entity. My immediate reaction, aside from kind of low energy and lack of charisma, was I can't think of any way in which Vance expands the electorate for Trump. Just didn't seem to be any way. Republican Tim Miller, who was on the show earlier this week, agreed with me. He doesn't see any way that Vance expands the voting base for Trump. And now, especially with all these comments about the childless and having less political power and being deranged and psychopathic and sociopathic, I think this is now doing material net harm to their voting base. And the question I have for you is, does JD Vance survive this? Let me know. info@davidpakman.com. I love exploring new countries. If you follow me on Instagram, you see me in Italy or France or Denmark, Spain. I do speak English and Spanish fluently, but if I'm going somewhere where there is a different language spoken, I turn to an app called Babbel. Our sponsor, Babbel, is the app that can help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. I'm busy running a business. My daughter is running around. So Babbel's bite-sized 10-minute lessons are just perfect for me. I can do it on the go, do it during a lunch break. It's only a little bit of a time commitment each time, and you end up with a surprising level of comfort with the language after just a few weeks, which was perfect before my recent trip to Italy. Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others continue to prove Babbel is better and Babbel is faster. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a semester at college in a language class. Here's a special limited time deal for my audience. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for my audience at babbel.com/Pakman. Rules and restrictions may apply. The link is in the description.